Just thought I'd throw a few videos out there just to sort of look at this crazy time that we're in. And I know for many people looking into the whole prospect of digital learning and distant learning is something that could be a bit scary, but I figured it'd be worth throwing some videos out there just to remind people that there's a lot of stuff that stays exactly the same when we talk about digital learning or distant learning. Some things that have to change, obviously. As a school, Hamilton Christian School, we've talked a lot about two questions that every teacher should be able to answer about every student all the time, and that is, what do my students need to learn now, and what is the best way to get them there? And those two questions really still form the basis of what distance learning is. So what do my students need to learn now? That is firstly informed by a teacher's knowledge of curriculum. Are they level 3, are they level 4, year 1, year 2, year 13, whatever that might be. What does the curriculum say they should be learning? And then using formative assessment to understand where the student is on that journey to being successful in whatever curriculum it is that they're up to at that point. So first question, what do my students need to learn now? That's still a question that you need to be answering with distance learning. Second question, what is the best way to get them there? That really is the design for learning side of things. So what activities will you use for your students to engage them in that learning process? And not everyone engages in learning activities the same way as other people. So designing different activities for different students based on what you understand of them. So your best way to inform the question of what is the best way to get them there is to know the student, know how they engage in learning. The only thing that distance learning really does change is we now need to consider, how will you know they got there? When you're in a classroom, you can check in with the student often. You can ask them questions to check on their learning, their understanding. You can read what they've got in their books. But in distant learning, you have to consider new ways of doing that. And I'm not talking about full-on assessments. It is really that check-in, what type of activities, how do you track the activities that you're using with the students to see whether they're struggling with new concepts or not. So really 3 questions that form the basis of distance learning. 2 of them you're familiar with. What is it that my students need to learn now? Secondly, what is the best way to get them there? And the third question to consider is, how will you know that they got there? So we'll talk more about some of the modes of learning that you can now do with distant learning, but keep in mind it's not changing everything because we're distant learning, so keep calm, don't panic. Just consider some of the new opportunities that come through with the distant learning side of things. So I'll be in touch more videos coming, unpack different aspects. Biggest thing that I really want to emphasize really right from the beginning is as a Christian school, how is it that your bigger purpose around learning, how do you engage your students in those bigger questions around life to ensure that you're not just delivering a curriculum or a teaching platform now that just engages on skills and concepts, but keep the students engaged in those bigger pictures of the meaning of life and what hope they have for the future. Be in touch in the future, subscribe, and that way you will get notifications of when I